we gather in search of the truth, dark, and mystery. It's the Drunk Turkey Show.
Big development today in the investigation into the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. According to state and local officials and court documents, 28-year-old Brian Christopher Kohberger has been arrested. He was arrested and arraigned this morning in Pennsylvania.
We have new details on what Brian Kohberger was doing right before his arrest. Police says a tactical team burst in to arrest the Idaho murder suspect. He was in pajamas and latest gloves, stuffing trash into Ziploc bags.
Hey, greetings from the year 3000. It still sucks. This is Phil J. Fry, and you're listening to the Drunken Turkey Show. Your one stop for this sort of thing. Hit that button, like and subscribe. You know what to do, just like every other podcast.
Just like every other podcast. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the DT Show. Sorry I've been gone for a few days. Just been kind of really busy, to be honest with you guys. Let me see. Let me make this different. Oh, nice. Now we can actually see what's being said on the screen. You guys better be on your best behavior then. We can actually read your comments on the screen, because that means we'll have to be a little bit more less lenient, zero tolerance almost. So chat, best behavior. Porfa, please. Without further ado, today we're going to get into the Jack and Lilly Sullivan disappearance. I actually have some, I don't want to say it's breaking news, but it's new news of some developments that have gone on in the case that we're going to talk about. We're going to bring on a good friend of ours, first and foremost, Dr. Jamie Vona, to the stage. How's it going, Dr. Vona?
Hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. What's going on?
How you doing?
I'm doing good. Been working a lot lately, having to talk a lot. And so if my voice sounds different, it's because I've been talking quite a bit here recently.
And if I sound different, I don't feel good. I talk all the time. I'm used to that. That's what I do for a living, but I don't feel good today. So forgive me, everybody, please.
Well, I hope you feel better.
Thank you.
Better. And so today is Jack Sullivan's birthday, and I want to start off first. Let me bring this up real quick. And this was sent to me. A couple of things we're going to play throughout today's show, referencing Jack's birthday, and we got a birthday poem, a video that was sent to me by Brian the Girls. They made this. They made a couple of videos. We're going to play those throughout the show, but we wanted to highlight, little Jack's birthday. I'll go ahead and read this. It says, Jack Sullivan. On this October day, we honor Jack Sullivan and his sweet, gentle nature. As this would be your 5th birthday, we gather to remember the good times and the love you and your sister shared with everyone. You may be missing for now, but not lost forever. We will find you and your sister.
Aww.
And so wanted to share that. There was a vigil earlier today. I believe some of the members, family members, showed up. And I caught some of it on Kent's Facebook page. Kent is usually in the live chat. So I caught some of it. I got to see what Kent looked like. I had no idea. So it was good to see, to put a face to a voice. I've talked to him a few times. And so
Did he look like what you were thinking?
A little bit younger. I thought he sounded a little bit older than what he looked.
That's always fun when you finally see someone that you've been talking to and you're like, oh my gosh, they don't, whether they look like what you thought or not. That's funny.
Exactly. And so it's, from what I could see and from what I watched, I only watched a portion of it. It's a very beautiful ceremony. I know that there was some reporters out there. I did speak with Daniel after the fact, and
how's he doing? He got into an accident, right?
He did. In fact, he's doing all right. This is an image that's been circling around out there on the interwebs. This is the accident that he got into. I found out when he got into the accident. I just didn't feel like it was, my business to report it. What does it have to do with the case? But it's been reported out there.
Well, it looks like a
lot.
bad accident, so I think like just being of general concern if he was okay. You know what I mean? I was concerned when I saw this. I think I texted you right away and was like, "Oh my gosh, is he okay?"
Oh yeah, yeah. No, they were getting some hate stuff about the accident and stuff, and so like Janie was a lot upset. You know, one, her son was involved in an accident. He was hurt. He had to be rushed to the hospital via ambulance. Had to stay there for a while. I mean, obviously he had they had some concerns with, you know, when you're in an accident like this, you're not wearing a helmet, and so your head can hit some things. And so those were kind of the concerns they had. And
that car's totaled. Look at that wheel.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And apparently this happened not too far away from his home.
Wow.
Yeah. He had just left. He was on his way to go see Meadow, his daughter, on their visitation. And yeah, he hydroplaned in the rain is what he said, or he lost traction with the water on the roadway and went into a ditch.
It's terrible.
And no, Janie was not in the car. It was Daniel was the only person in the car, sole occupant, sole vehicle involved in the accident.
Wow. He's lucky to be okay in that car. That car looks terrible.
It does. It does. It could have been way worse. I mean, if he would have served another way, another car coming, you know, wrong time, wrong place, right situation, it could be way worse. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Sarah Adams comes in on your channel saying, "Enjoy the yin and yang of your callers."
Thank you.
XO to you, both appreciate.
You're funny. Thank you.
And so that was one of the news, not the breaking news or anything. Some of the news that happened over the weekend was that Daniel had gotten into an accident. Now, what did happen that I found interesting, and that was I got word from somebody. I can't really disclose like who some of these folks are because, you know, if you ruin your sources and stuff like that, then they're not going to tell you anything anymore. You know what I'm saying?
1,000%.
I have people who I talk to that are very close to, well, we know that I talked to Daniel and Janie, you know, but I've talked to other people that are very close to Malaya. I've talked to Malaya through them. And so now I've talked to other people that just kind of live in the area. I've talked to a lot of neighbors from Nova Scotia. I've talked to some other folks. I'm trying to get in touch with some of the ground search crew so I can get interviews with them about what they found or you know, during the initial search, not the hazard or not the hazard, the human remains detection search.
That's interesting.
Yeah, the original search. I'm trying to get a couple of people, if not one specific person, to come on the channel and do an interview about what it is they saw out there on their search, what kind of search that they did, more focusing on the search itself,
Nice.
not necessarily the conspiracy stuff of the case, right?
No, I love that.
And some of the other folks that just talk to me are just kind of close to in general, very close. And I got word this weekend that, and it was right before Daniel had his accident, I got word that supposedly, now I can only confirm half of this, that Daniel and Malaya were asked to come in separately and speak to law enforcement, and that there was a 2-hour interrogation / recorded conversation there with law enforcement after some of the stuff that's kind of been stirred up is what I was told.
So this was recently?
Yeah, like Thursday or Friday.
Wow.
Right. So I found this out. So I obviously was going to reach out to Daniel. And as I'm reaching out to Daniel, I get a picture of his car totaled and all this other stuff. Right. And so I'm like, okay, this is interesting. So I'm waiting until, you know, Daniel's obviously healthy and safe and we find out he's okay. And then I begin asking like, hey, is this true? Finally got in touch with him today. And he informed me that it was true, that the RCMP asked him. He has no idea if Malaya was asked or not asked to go in and speak with them, but that he was asked to come in and speak with RCMP. And the premises around what they were questioning him about or talking him to about was what he did that morning, right around the time that 911 was called. And what they were trying to eliminate him as, and he said that they'd already asked him these questions, but they kept asking him over, and they said it was a recorded conversation. He is under the impression that it's not an interrogation, that they were just kind of talking. I'm like, dude, I don't feel that way. I strongly suspect that this is, not necessarily an interrogation where they suspect you, but they're going to, if they're recording your conversation, it's for a reason. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so what they were wanting to talk to him about was what he saw that morning when he drove down Lansdowne Station down road where the pink blanket was. And so he told them what he'd seen, and he said that he drove down there and that he was driving about 15 miles an hour, looking back and forth, trying to figure out where the kids were, turned around and came back. And about that time is when I guess law enforcement had shown up, because he runs out, runs into the woods. Malaya calls, I guess she had to leave the house and get up higher to call 911 because of the service.
Oh my gosh, imagine that.
Yeah, because the only way they had service in the house, like they could make Wi-Fi calls and things like that, but for whatever reason, you couldn't call 911 through it. And so she had to get off of that and get on regular, like, I guess, your regular service for your phone. And then she had to go outside or go somewhere, whether it was outside or inside, I don't know. But she had to go stand in a specific spot, call 911. And that during this time, Daniel had kind of ran a little bit around the area, came back, got in the white Pathfinder, and then circled around towards, I guess, the railroad tracks and then up the dirt road, kind of looking around towards, I guess he has a family member's house out in that direction. And then he came back. Now, what he said that they were, kind of talking to him, or what they wanted to do is eliminate him as the person who possibly planted the blanket out there. That they, because he had told me a while back, and he told me again now that a while back that they had told him it was planted when he was talking to him when they were doing it. I asked him if in this interview again, if they told him it was planted, and he said no. Now, he didn't ask, but they were trying to eliminate that as a possibility. And what do you think about that?
I don't know, that I'm like thinking about it, and I'm thinking about, like, we talked about the blanket and stuff too, and I think it's good that they pull him in and ask him about it, but I do think that it's evidence that they're still, like, evident that they're still watching and listening to everything. So in my head, I feel like he's not necessarily eliminated. Right. I don't think anybody is. Well, I mean, they are, but do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like hopefully they're not just looking down his lane is what I'm saying. Like, hopefully they're looking at everybody that could have something to do with something. Right. I hope that you investigate all avenues. I'm just saying, like, hopefully I would hope that they would still be listening and stuff, and they are. So that's good news. What do you think?
See, to me, I was like, all right, the blanket was found at 3:50 in the afternoon. Okay, we got dispatch for that. They have found it, and I got some other stuff here that we're going to go through. I think RCMP still thinks that the blanket is out there. I think they're doing their due diligence here to interrogate him, investigate him, ask him again after so much time has surpassed to see if his story has changed in any means. And if it hasn't changed and he came in and he said the exact same thing or something, maybe not the exact same things, I think that would be impossible, to be honest with you. I think that if he did say the exact same thing, that's probably, well, usually I would think that's suspicious. But in his situation, I don't necessarily know if it would be as suspicious if he said the exact same thing, because he has said the exact same thing to the media, to me, and to people online over and over and over again. Somebody who hasn't been in the media or in social media like that, if they said the exact same thing several months later and have not been talking about it, I think that would have been suspicious. So I think the circumstance matters. So I think they're going to go through that and figure that out. And I think they're going to try to either rule that out as a possibility, or they're going to utilize this as a possibility to rule it out and to not rule it, or to rule it as a possibility that he did. Because at the end of the day, he says it wasn't there when he drove by. He drove by, he was on the road that morning where the blanket was found. And so if I'm law enforcement, I would question that. And I would be like, well, was it you? Now, the one thing that kind of throws me off, and I want to get your opinion on this, is if Daniel did plant it, why would he be pushing that narrative that it was planted?
In case he knows that they figure out that it was planted. That way it's already, it's already out there. Well, I thought it was planted, so why would I say it was planted if I had nothing to do with it?
That's a fair point. That's a fair point.
I was listening to the one thing that stuck out to me today when I was watching a video was the last interview he did, where why did he say, just between you and me, like, fill me in, because I would still have a question, when they said, did you think they were going to find anything out here? And he was like, I knew they weren't gonna. He sounded like why is he so sure that they're not going to find anything?
Well, because they told him that, according to him, and it's not that I don't believe him.
I'm just curious. I don't know.
It's that I wonder if some of this is tactics. So according to him, they told him, and these are the search crew, that we're 99.9% sure that the kids aren't in the woods. I think that's foolish to say, for one. And two, could they be saying that to be trying to pressure him, and it's just not working because he's not grasping the concept. Like if for instance, if I were to suspect you of you doing something, and if you were Daniel and I started telling you, I don't think they're in the woods, to me, I'm telling you because I'm accusing you of something. He may not be interpreting that correctly. He may not be getting that message.
Did you hear it though? He was very sure. He was just like, I knew they weren't going to find anything.
Because they told him that the ground search crew searched, and that they had some sort of satellite, stuff that they had to get permission from, FLIR, and they were able to do. They were able to find, and this was true. I guess the black swans that we found, a beaver and a coyote, but they weren't able to find the kids.
Yeah, someone said too, he thought that Malia took them, so that could be the answer too.
Right, and he suspects that to be the issue, and so
that's a good point.
All those things are the reason why. Now, to me, and I even told him today, I was like, man, I'll be honest with you, Daniel, the way they talking and the way they're doing things don't really come off as, to me, I think they're just. I told him straight up, I was like, look, if I was investigating you, I'd try to be your buddy too. I'd be nice with you. I'd joke with you. I'd get you to open up. So, because, me and him were talking about what they were saying. And he's like, nah, man, this wasn't an interrogation. And I was like, but they recorded it, right? And he's like, yeah. Like, okay, well, you may not call it that, but I do. And
to me, it says that they want a transcript.
Right.
Evidence of it.
And he did call it, I said it wrong. He did call it an interrogation too, but what he said was, my terminology for an interrogation is just that because they recorded it. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. I mean, they also record witnesses and stuff. So I do got to say that it could be just a recorded statement, to get it on writing, like you mentioned. But to me, if they're just trying to verify that his statement is correct and that he didn't change it, I think they're trying to say that that it's not planted in the end. I think that's what's going to end up happening. It's either going to be he planted it or it's not planted at all.
All right, well, I don't know. The thing that's not that I don't know, but I guess my thing is the thing that like hit me wrong with that was the trash bag thing. Like, but
Yeah.
I didn't. That's the only thing that was like to me, because my thing is, why would the other part, like, why would you only have a piece of it on you?
Well, I mean, it was used for a bunch of different things. It was used to block the draft into the door. And so if they were using it to block the draft into the door and somebody tried opening the door with it still there, then it very well likely could have torn over a while. And there's a good possibility that it was in pieces before it even got in that trash can, and that another piece was somewhere else. Now, in the comment, there's a comment saying maybe they got the results back from the blanket. They should have Daniel's results on the blanket. His DNA should be on it. It was in his house.
Yeah,
So
that wouldn't be.
that wouldn't be a reason why they brought him in. Now, to me, like I said, maybe that's just the one thing that they had to rule out, right? To say that it was not planted is all right. We got to rule out Daniel. We got to rule out his statement. So we're going to go back. We're going to pull him in. We're going to compare and contrast with what he said the first time and see if he's lying to us.
I guess we'll find out.
And then to me, it's either that or they were really suspicious that he planted it. I think those are your two options there. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I guess both things could be true at the same time. They're investigating it, is the point, right? To see which one it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, you know, again, I'd asked him if they thought that it was planted, and he only told me about that one time. Now, somebody else has contacted me, and I found this to be interesting. This is they didn't want to be they didn't want to be identified, but I'm going to bring up some of the things that they had sent me. They live in the area, and I don't know. I think they might have some history with searching and searches. So it goes on. This goes on to say, "Oh gosh, this looks freaking small on the big screen." The blanket was found on Lansdowne Road. Cluster of boot prints were found on the pipeline. Not just one print. Clearly says clusters of prints in the S&R documents that were released. And so one of the issues that they had, and I kind of agree, is that there's audio, and I'm going to pull up the audio that at about 1:30 a.m. that the boot prints were found. And within a few minutes, they decided to close down shop and leave for the night.
Why?
I think that's the biggest fail I have ever heard.
Right? You would think that would make them like feel like they were onto something.
Yeah. They ended the night shift a few minutes after they found the boot prints. And so they actually linked here. Let me pull it up real quick. And you may want to mute because I'm going to share the audio.
Copy that, returning to base. Halifax Command, rescue.
I'm going to turn it up.
Mm-hmm.
That's way too low.
Go ahead, Lee. Yeah, completed a sweep of the property. Nothing seen. There are some kids' bikes here, but members are still interviewing the person, so not sure if you've got any other direction for us at this point. Over.
Oh, negative. They can return.
Copy that. Returning to base. Halifax Command, rescue 2. Over.
Lee?
Would walk up the gas pipeline trail there, and there's definitely some child-sized footprints in the mud here that are still visible. They're a bit eroded from the heavy rain, but they're still visible. So, not sure if you'd like us to continue on up the trail or what you'd like to do. Over.
So they were still visible. I'm going to mute this here. All right, you can unmute. They were still visible. It's been heavy rain. This was around 1:30 in the morning, and they closed shop a little bit after this. Now, to me, I think that they must have been. I mean, if they were still visible in the rain there to the point where you can still see the number 2 and the 9 from the shoe print, it must have been a pretty deep print. What do you think?
Yeah, and why did, like, I know that it matters because it could tell them time wise, but the fact is that they got one. Were they able to, like, I know that they tried to compare it, and like you said, it had the 9 on the bottom and the 2, but were they able to, I don't remember if they were ever able to, like, get a print from it, or did they just take pictures of it to compare?
I believe they took a casting of it the next day, and that's what they were able to tell. And I think they went to go and find the boots that Malaya bought at Walmart to compare. And Malaya actually was wrong. She thought that they were size 13, which were bigger than 29. And when they went and looked at her financial records, they were able to pinpoint a purchase at Walmart for the boots, and it was actually size 29 or 11. And so they matched at least the size that were found out there on the pipeline, which was in the middle of nowhere. And again, if these boots are leaving a decent print into it, that these kids are walking into, if somebody planted this in the middle of nowhere, where are their boot prints?
That's true.
And so
I mean, unless of course they were trying to hide their boot prints, I'm sure.
I mean, yeah, but it was there was a lot of mud. Apparently.
So you would still see indents of some sort.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like in the middle of nowhere. So you would have had to have gone through, I think,
that's a good point.
Other parts that I think there would have been other evidence out there. And if it was raining, as the way they were saying, and it was raining heavy enough, and that's the other thing too, for those boot prints to have been left and it had been raining, is it possible that those prints had been recently left?
Oh, I would assume that they have to be somewhat recent, because even on the phone, he says that the prints are still visible, which makes it sound like, in other words, like it had to be somewhat fresh, because how long would they stay visible if it's raining like that?
Right. And the other thing too is, and this is one of the things that I was referring to when I was speaking to this person, I said, one of the things that I noticed on the radio is that after a while, they had to be reminded, like, hey, these kids can be further out. They can be up to 6 kilometers by now. For them to be reminded of that on the dispatch kind of told me that they were focusing in pretty close to the home, and the kids may have gotten a little bit further out than what was intended, right? And so, back to real quick, one other thing before I get a little too far. I did contact some of the folks that were in contact with Malaya. I've not been able to confirm whether or not they have brought her in and talked to her. I have no idea. Daniel doesn't know. But that was the first thing that was told to me. I have no idea. I've asked. If I find out, I'll let you guys know. I would hope
they would ask.
Yeah. No, I've asked, and hopefully I'll get word one way or another. But the other thing is, like, Daniel's sense of it all was more like they were just kind of, the way he said it was, they were clearing me from being the person that planted the blanket. And I was like, okay, well, that's interesting.
Very interesting.
And so I'm not saying that's interesting one way or another, but it's interesting. And so here's the other stuff that I have here. So let's see. Right here goes, don't get, they were ending the night shift. This ends at 1:07. This was a major fail. Search manager. Don't get confused following recordings. Oh, yes. So, yeah, a lot of this is just because this was clips, but it was shortly after they found the boot prints. Like, they ended up closing it down. And they talk about it right here. The kids' boot prints were found on the pipeline. You can access through Broadcastify. Hey, Broadcastify is what Brian Koberger used so that he can listen to the radio.
You're funny.
But I'm serious.
Wait, I have a quick question here. So it says clusters. So where else did they find prints?
It was where they were found.
So they were all in that one spot.
From what I understand, there was an area where there. I mean, I'm assuming that it was just in an area along the pipeline, but I'd be lying if I said anything further than that.
I don't know if you could find this out somehow, but someone said that the bus driver said that the bus driver's wife said that he let a kid out to pee out of the bus. How could we see if that really happened? And if so, what size shoe does that kid wear?
Well, let me show you where the boot print was real quick. Where is it at? Where's it? Oh, here it is. Good old Google Earth. Let's pull this up. And then once I show you where the boot print was, you let me know if you think that
someone said the other boot print didn't match that kid that got out to pee. Alrighty. So this is where Daniel's home is. And let me make this bigger. And so down this road up here is where the blanket was found. And then the boot print was found way over here. It was actually somewhere closer to around right here in the middle of nowhere along this pipeline. There's no road, no nothing here. The nearest road is way over here. Was it in like a certain direction? Like were they facing, like as if the kids were walking a certain way? And that I have no idea. I wonder. That's a good question. But yeah, it was supposedly somewhere, they said 3/4 way up the pipeline on the dispatch when I looked up the dispatch transcript. And so if it's 3/4 the way up the pipeline, I mean, it could be like way over here. That's far. But then remember you told me of that story where I think it was Jack that got out and he walked. So it's not impossible. No, it's not. And it's not. I think this looks really far, but it's not. Like the distance from Daniel's house, if you walk up this trail to where the boot print is, I think it's a mile. Which is far for little kids, but if he walked how far did he walk the last time? It was far. It was about a little bit over 1/4 mile. But he was a lot younger, so you would assume that he'd be able, right? So you would assume that he'd be able to walk even further. Right, exactly. And so this is what some of the I don't necessarily agree with the speed here, but this is the how far could you walk calculations that they put together. Walking at the age of 4 at 1 mile an hour would, 30 minutes would be at 1/2 mile. That's a snail's pace. That's a super slow. I think people could crawl faster than this, to be honest with you. But they're kids. I'm assuming they wouldn't just walk straight and keep going. Like they probably would stop and pick up things and play. Like who knows? Fair. That's true. And so even if they did do an hour per an hour per mile, 1 mile per hour, and obviously in an hour they could have gotten to where the boot prints were. If they went missing somewhere close to 9, law enforcement wasn't called till 10. The search and rescue was close, but they weren't right there. It still took them 20 to 30 minutes for them to. Well, it took 20 minutes, 30 minutes for law enforcement to arrive. They didn't arrive till 10:20 something. I think that Daniel, Malaya, they all underestimated how far the kids would have gotten, and we're focusing right there by the house. And then search and rescue is probably there maybe 20 minutes after law enforcement arrives, so at around 11. That's 2 hours away. 2 hours for these kids to have gotten really, really far. And just to kind of show you how far that is. Yeah, how far is that? About right here with this yellow one. From the center? Yeah. Wow, that is far. Or maybe this is 3 kilometers. So I don't know. I don't know what to factor in, but I know, right? That's where I'm stuck right now. I'm like, I have a doctorate, but not in that. I think how many kilometers is it in a mile? But yeah, I mean, it's far. And obviously, that's not if they're that's if they're walking the easy trails, if they're going down the ATV, those type of things.
and sticking to nothing that's harsh terrain. Obviously, if they're going through something like that, that's
See, my thing is they're really young, and I would assume that they didn't really have a lot of training in like what to avoid and what to touch and where not to go. So like I just think of all the things that could have happened. Like on the way there, that made them take a little bit longer, or like I wonder how directive a route it was. I don't know. I have so many questions about it, but there's really no answers right now. So when I say I don't know, it's more because we don't really know for sure.
Oh, of course. Of course. Let me remove the comments. So this is the route that they have. So this is where the blanket is. So obviously walking down the street, you know, and there was a boot print found in the driveway.
Mm-hmm. Of
So
where the Janie lives, right?
Correct. Right here in the driveway, there was a boot print, and it was leading towards the driveway.
See, I did my research.
There you go. So you have a boot print leading towards the driveway, indicating that if we were to say, all right, did they walk off or wander off? If they went down this street and then turned off to the right, I mean, they're not going through anything crazy that would have prevented them from not being able to accomplish this. Now, they could have turned up the railroad tracks.
Oh, well, there were like, oh, wow.
Or they could have turned up this streetway or the street here. Either way, it's not that far of a walk to get to right here where the blanket was found. Now, the blanket was up in the tree, and some folks have thought, well, is it possible that maybe they dropped the blanket on the roadway? You know,
I was going to say, is that a roadway where cars go? Like that makes me like, that made my stomach turn, like as if somebody could have thrown something out of the car.
Yeah, but I mean, where it was at to throw it out of the car. See, you see, this is where where it's marked. It was up here. I think it's actually like right here on this branch is where maybe perhaps Daniel was pointing. But look at that incline. Like you.
So it would have to be the wind.
Either the wind, an animal, or, you know, the kids could have been walking up this trail right here. And if they'd already walked this distance, I know it was kind of a colder day, but walking that distance, you know, if they had a blanket, let's just say Lily was kind of cold that morning, and, you know, she grabbed a piece of blanket, wrapped it around herself, and walked out with Jack. And then, you know, by the time they got to this point, have warmed up, and just kind of threw it off and threw it into the tree.
That too. How far down do these like hills go? Like I always think of like the accidents that could have happened.
What do you mean? How far do
like you know how like it looks like it slopes down? Like does that go down far? Like around my house, some of those things like lead to creeks and stuff.
There
Like,
are
would you get
bodies of
hurt
waters.
if you fell?
I think that there are some, not very many, but it does look like there are some pretty steep embankments, like right here. Like you can see the railroad tracks here. You can see a down tree there. I mean, there's a lot of obstacles in between here and there.
Yeah, that's worrisome.
And I mean, look at the incline going uphill. And so that's.
They were coming downhill though, right?
No, they would have gone uphill.
No, they would have gone uphill.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that kind of bothers Daniel about this too, is that the footprints were up here.
Yeah, I don't know.
And he's like, they would have had to have gone through some rough terrain and uphill. I mean, I don't see a rough terrain that is not impossible to have gotten there, because look, this is a roadway. This is a roadway where the blanket was. It goes up, and then it clears into this open area, and then in the back there's a little trail right here that if you walk opens up again. And it puts you right there on the pipeline.
I don't know about this.
I mean, that's where the footprints were. And
there's no other way to get to that point. I just feel like that seemed like a very like trail type thing for like little kids.
I mean, the other way is to just go straight up this roadway and then turn right here.
Okay, well, that's a possibility. I don't know. I don't know as far as like what the kids were like used to. If they were used to walking in stuff like this, or did they not like play in the woods very often? I wonder if this, like, do you know, is this something that they were used to?
I don't know. It sounds like the answer was to Janie, not really. She thought that, it's weird because I get conflicting stories about that, and I don't think it's conflicting to the point where they're trying to hide anything. It's just that I think that they tell me no, he wouldn't have gone in the woods, but he liked bugs. So to me, that's conflicting. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I mean.
Also, and like you said, I don't think she's lying, but how, like she said, she had to carry him over, but then we hear that years before he walked. So, and again, I don't think that she's lying. I just think it's like a misperception of what he's capable of doing.
Exactly. And I think there's a lot of misperception of what the capabilities of these kids are. I think that, for whatever reason, people think that, these kids couldn't have done certain things. Couldn't have walked as far as, for instance, the 2-year-old that walked like 7 miles, in an Arizona desert. Some kids can do
that's like an oddity, though. I mean, it happens, but it's not the norm, I don't think.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that if, there's probably a good possibility that, there's got to be some factors that probably made that possible. Probably the time of day that the kid went missing. Right. Environmental aspect, the kid would have had to have gotten lucky that it didn't, the weather didn't become, crazy. He didn't come across a predator of some sort. That's another lucky aspect of it, So yeah, there's a lot of luck that's involved in that. And when you look at how dense these woods are and stuff, and the possibility of the animals that inhabit this area, it's probably more likely. I mean,
didn't they only find a coyote and a beaver?
According to Daniel. And that's what they had told him. I don't know how much Daniel really I know they told him a lot, and I don't know if he's confusing with being told a lot with told everything. But yeah, he said in the last
interview he did say the coyote and the beaver thing again.
Yeah, no, he's said that before, that's all they found, that's what they told him they found. But just because that's all they found doesn't mean that that's all that was there. Like, have you ever heard that, even with the blanket, because Daniel says that he drove up the street and he didn't see it. Have you ever heard this saying, if it was a snake, it would have bit you?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think people say that saying?
Because if it was a snake, because it would have bit you. It would have been fearful. It would have.
No. People say that to people when they can't find something, and it's right in front of their face.
Oh, I didn't know you meant that. I thought you meant literally. Why would somebody?
Yeah, no.
I got what you're saying. Yes.
If there's an item why is that saying popular?
Right. When you're trying to find something and it's right in front of you, like your glasses are on your head and you're like, where are my glasses at? And it's like, if it was a snake, it would have bit you. I get it.
Right. But why is the saying popular? The saying is popular because
it happens.
People miss things right in front of their faces
all
the time. If that wasn't the case, then that saying wouldn't be popular. And so
all the time,
for Daniel, and I told him, I was like, dude, take yourself out of the situation. Take yourself out of the situation and the possibility that you missed something. Because he goes, no, I drove down that street and I was looking back. I was like, dude, if what you're telling me is real and true, that you're driving down the street and you're looking for your stepkids who are missing, I can't imagine the adrenaline, the nervousness, this fear, the anxiety that was going on in your body. I would be more surprised if you didn't miss anything.
So, but aren't you more not concerned? I don't know what the right word is, that the fact that he's so sure. Sometimes I feel like he's very sure of his, he's very confident about the answers he gives. And I'm just like, if I was in the situation, God forbid, I hope I never, am, but you would think that you would leave anything open if you really didn't know.
I agree, but he's so confident. It's called confirmation bias. He's so confident that he knows what happened. He thinks it's Malaya and all this.
A+ for that one. That was good. I agree with you on that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's what it is. He's dead set on that. In my opinion, You know, he doesn't believe they're in the woods. Malaya doesn't.
That would be
believe they're in the
assuming.
woods.
So when I say A+ on that, I mean that is what confirmation bias is. I don't know if I'm convinced yet that it's confirmation bias, but that is what confirmation bias is. That's what I meant by that.
Right.
I don't know yet. I don't know. He's a little, to me, and again, I also have to remember that just because I would react one way doesn't mean that somebody else is going to react that way. So I do try to keep that in mind as well. That just because somebody doesn't react like I would doesn't make them guilty.
Right, exactly. I mean, a lot of people do act in different scenarios, but you know, I'm going to play this if you want to mute.
Yeah.
This is actually the searcher who was out there and what they think about, and they're going to talk a little bit about also what they found in the woods and things of that nature, and then we'll open it up for opinion.
Do you think those kids are in the woods? From everything I've seen, yes. We got the first call shortly after 11 on Friday morning on the 2nd that there was 2 children lost up here in Lansdowne, and we just deployed the team and got here as fast as we could.
And when you got that first call, did anything stand out about that first call? Was unique or unusual?
It's not common to have 2 lost subjects in that kind of scenario. So with kids like that, it's not common to have the 2. It's not uncommon, so a pair of hikers is overdue or something like that. But with kids, it is a little uncommon to have 2 gone missing.
Have you found anything?
The only thing that we had was the boot prints that everybody, and we still cannot 100% say that they belong to the children, but that was pretty much the only thing that we had.
You think they're in the woods?
I have not been told anything to lead me to any other conclusion at this point.
Why can't you find them?
They're small, they'd be hiding. They would have crawled underneath something probably when they got tired. They could have gone further than what we searched. There's all kinds of scenarios, unfortunately.
So for me, the one thing that does kind of not necessarily bother me, but like, you know, this is, you know, Amy Hansen. She's in charge of the search and rescue, and she, I'm gonna mute it. She says that she believes they're out in the woods. Yet, you know, Daniel tells me that he's being told they're not. Doesn't it sound kind of contradicting?
Yes.
So what do you make of it?
The same thing I make of everything else. It just makes me have more questions.
Well, what do you think about what the searcher says? That she believes they're out in the woods. All they have is the footprints. And at the time, this was taken a while ago. So they, let's see. This was 4 months ago. So this would have been shortly after the disappearance when this interview would have taken place. You know, everything that she knows and everything that they're saying points to the kids being in the woods.
So couldn't it be confirmation bias in the opposite way too?
For her?
Yeah, like could she not, like maybe she's like convinced. I mean, why? I guess I would want to know what exactly makes her sure. Just like I have the question for Daniel, what makes him sure that they're not in there?
I think with her, I don't know if she's as absolute sure as Daniel is, or she's coming off as absolute sure like Daniel is.
That's just her theory.
I think she thinks that, but I think that she also understands her limitations and the search crew's limitations, like maybe perhaps others wouldn't, and understands that there's a very good possibility that they could have missed something.
Well, not only that, wouldn't it have taken a lot longer to do the entire woods? Like it wasn't possible to do the whole thing, right? I know that they have drone footage of everything, but as far as like walking everything.
I know it would have taken a while. I know they were out there for a few days and then they took off and then they came back. They did like a hasty search, which is not very, it's a very quickly, as hasty, it's like it sounds very fast, you know, try to find somebody. Basically what for a hasty search is what you're looking for is when you're looking for somebody who's alive. And so you're hoping that somebody can respond to you. And so you're a little bit more spread apart in a hasty search because you're yelling and you're expecting, like if you yell Jack, Lilly, you're expecting that if they're, you know, conscious that they could yell back at you.
Yes.
And so with a grid search, it's a little bit different. You're looking for items on the ground. You're looking for anything that can point to you in the direction of something to maybe not so much as a rescue, but a location operation of remains at that point, if it's obviously been a week. And so you're looking for little things that require more people in between, closer to you, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
And so they did the hasty search at first. And so it's very much plausible that they could have missed something there. Even with the human remains dogs, an RCMP investigator, had came out and said, hey, don't be surprised if they don't find anything. They're going to have to go back out there over and over again for years. And, to me, it just kind of seems like that's, outside of them asking Daniel to come in and talk to him about what he did that morning. I found that, it seems like everything else that they've done has been pointed out towards them being in the woods. The searches that they've had with the cadaver dogs and stuff. Yes, it was around Daniel's property, but they were also out by all these areas. So
they could have very well gone out and gotten lost for sure. The thing that makes me lean on that part is because the weekend before, their step siblings were there and they went out, and the fact that they had their backpacks and stuff, they said, and then the kids also brought their backpacks, but they weren't their school backpack. That whole thing is one of the reasons that I could argue that they may have very well gotten lost in the woods.
Yeah, kids are impressionable. These kids were young.
And you always want to be like your older siblings when you're little.
Right, exactly. And if they saw their older siblings doing something like that, they may want to do it. I mean, the other thing too is, and I do also want to say this. I did ask the folks who are close with Malaya and asked if they thought that Daniel planted the blanket, and they said no. So take that for what it is on that aspect. So Malaya doesn't believe so. And again, I've always, which is weird because so Daniel had a few interviews at the vigil today, and some of them were referencing some of the questions about him talking about Malaya, implicating her online.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. And he said he was caught off guard about it and stuff, but I was like, hey, he's turned on her. He's at least said that he believes that she did something so that way, it would make him look bad in custody for Meadow.
And she has to know, right? She has to know his allegations.
Right. And, to me, in some way, I question if the motive behind the questioning of Malaya so much like that is because of the way she left.
That always has not sat with me. Okay. I know all of the things, and I asked you and you said because of the parent that, the mom said that she had, I got all of that, but it still didn't sit right with me. And I don't know if it's as a mom, I don't know what it is, but I don't care if Rye was torturing my life. I would make him leave before I left and not known where, if my kid, if they were last seen there, I just couldn't imagine what could be happening that would ever get me to leave. But again, I also have to remember that I can't see myself in other people because then I'd be wrong all the time. Not all the time, a lot of times.
Well, one of the things that I've been, indicating is that I believe that Malaya was trying to get out of the relationship before any of this happened.
Yeah, but would you have left?
I wouldn't have. But, I think that
even if Steelers fan was torturing your life, you still wouldn't have left, right?
Well, I got a question. If your daughter was in a relationship with somebody and leading up to the disappearance of her kids, she was telling you some pretty negative things about her partner, how comfortable would you be to leave your daughter there with that person?
I wouldn't be, but you know what I would do? I'd be like, move over, here I come. And I would set up shop and I would stay with my daughter until we found something.
I mean, I
would have been like, I'm not
I
going
would have
to
done something similar too. I know in this scenario, there was a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Turmoil that was starting to be created between the families, a lot of blame, a lot of accusations going back and forth. And, you know, I don't know. I think there was a lot of fighting and bickering going on then. And so
I don't care. I would have made up.
cluster.
I would have made up with Janie and been like, move over. I need to sleep over or something. Like I would have done whatever I had to. Do you know what I mean? Like I would have talked it out. I would have said, let's put our things aside right now. Like anything, because you would think that the kids' best interest would have came first. And that's a shame either way that it wasn't able to.
So what do you think about this? Because if Malaya was going to go stay down the street, she wasn't going to be very far. She was getting away from the drama. She wasn't feeling good. Apparently there was an ambulance that went there because of the anxiety and everything else. I assume it was for her. And the initial plan was that she was going to go down the street, and it was her mom who came up and was, from what I understand, causing her mom, and then I guess some of her family members were coming up, causing a scene, and kind of basically took over that, and is what forced her. From the side that I've talked to, I can't speak for Malaya as far as how that scenario went, because I've not talked to her about that. So I don't want to say that this is 100% certain. I'm coming in from the center here. And so from the side that I spoke to, it seemed like, it was more like her mom kind of like took her from there. It was like, no, get in the car now, got in the car, and then they drove her off.
I get that. And again, just because I would have set up shop there, even if I lived down the street, doesn't mean that somebody else would. And I don't look down on them for not doing that. I'm just saying, because I see people saying like, they did, but she did leave. She did. And it wasn't a question of did she leave? She left. It was more like, I don't know that I would have been able to leave. And if it was my daughter, I would have, like I said, I would have just joined her there. But somebody else also said, could it have been because she wanted to get her youngest one out of there? Because if it happened to the other two. But my thing is, I would have just, I don't know that would have even, like, I don't think that was at play at that point. Like there were enough adults around, and I would have kept the baby with me or with my mom. I don't know. That's just me. But again, I don't like, if you guys ever heard me, I give Daniel more flack than I do her. So I'm just saying, I don't know that I would have been able to leave.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't disagree with you. I think that.
Was she there today?
At the vigil?
Yeah.
Not to my knowledge.
I wonder if it was just so that she didn't have to see Daniel.
I know there was some other family members of hers that were.
Okay. So they were there, like, I guess, to represent her. That's maybe what we do in the Italians. We like, if we can't go, or if we don't think we should go, like if we would think that the attention would be on her instead of the kids, then you send somebody else to represent.
From what I understand is there's a lot of tension amongst her family members. And it's common to me. And maybe I understand this more because like I've had some experience with investigations where not all the answers are there, and or law enforcement can't provide all the answers. And when family members don't have the answers, or there's holes, they'll start to fill in those holes with their thoughts. And sometimes it's with wrong information, and they start getting the wrong idea. And then they start pointing fingers at each other, or somebody points in one direction. That person then becomes suspicious of the person who pointed in their direction. So then they begin to start, seeing things that maybe are there, maybe aren't there, maybe exaggerate them. And then next thing you know, you have this family feud.
And not just that, Daniel, then we would all be here tonight talking about how they fought instead of about Jack and Lily. So it might, like I said, it might have been the right decision if you knew that it might have turned into, a Malia Daniel.
And I think that she knew that Daniel was going to be there, and I think that
well, that's what I mean. Maybe she's trying to avoid that.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. Like I said, to me, at the end of the day, it's kind of like, have you heard of this Melody Buzzard case?
Maybe if you tell me like the gist of it, the name I don't, but I might know what you're talking about.
Little girl goes missing. Her mom, she hasn't gone to school in over a year. And then her mom takes a trip to Nebraska and comes back without her.
Oh, no.
This just recently happened. Now, mom's not cooperating with law enforcement. Doesn't want to say anything about where her kid is. She left and came back. People have tried asking her questions. She closes the door on them. Doesn't speak to the media. Doesn't speak to anybody. I see a lot of red flags in that case.
Yeah, you think? I would think so.
You know, when it comes
You
to
would think
Malaya,
that, you would think that she would be the first person speaking out for the kids, but
right? And it wasn't even her that reported the kids missing. Melody Buzzard's mom. It was the school because it'd been over a year. And during that investigation, they found out not too long ago that she went on a trip to Nebraska with her daughter and came back without her. And now, if you were to look at the two moms, Malaya, and you look at Melody Buzzard, you have one that does cooperate with law enforcement, regardless if you don't think she cooperates with anybody else. That's not what it's about. And maybe, and I think that what's going to end up happening is we're going to start to see this, and it's unfortunate, but we're going to start to see victim family members not talk because they're going to be afraid that they're going to be the next target on the next biggest true crime conspiracy. And I'm afraid that that's going to start to happen because at any point, everybody wants to be the person that finds that one guy to point out that one guy, remember, that was talking on the media and they found a body while they were talking to him and ended up being him as a killer. You know which case I'm talking about?
No, but I know I know the phenomenon that you're speaking of for sure.
Yes. So they want to be the one to see the difference, something or whatever the case may be, or point out, hey, this is the guy, and end up being the case. And everybody says that in every case that I see where there's somebody that talks to the media, oh, that guy looks like that person who was during the interview, they found the body and ended up being him, the killer. That's this scenario. That's this scenario. And that's in almost every case that I've covered in the true crime community. I see that all the time. And I think it's going to get to the point where people are going to be afraid to talk to the media.
And not just that, when we were talking last time about the neighbors or whatever, remember I said, my fear was if they get cleared that people are going to be hesitant to say that they heard something or something like that, because they might be afraid that they might be suspect to someone.
Yeah, but to the same point, if they're lying to law enforcement about what they heard, and you have people that are coming out and just trying to give out information for some sort of notoriety or celebrity aspect of it, or whatever the reason it is that they're lying about it, that's not right either.
Fair.
You know, there's some consequences to doing that as well. Now, when it comes to Wong and Smith, I asked Daniel about that, and today he told me that they hadn't. That nobody's brought them up. They've not, RCMP have not brought up Wong or said anything about them at all. So that tells me they probably don't suspect Wong, which is one of the things that I was saying from the beginning. I was like, hey, I can't rule out Wong because I don't have all the information. That doesn't mean that law enforcement haven't. What I'm saying is that based on where he lives and stuff like that, and the lack of evidence, if he doesn't want to cooperate, there's nothing forcing him to. There could be some question marks there, but I don't know if law enforcement has those question marks or not. My thing was, law enforcement has come out quickly to say that they were lying or refuting or disputing. Whether they were lying or inaccurate, they were wrong about what they were saying. They haven't come back to dispute anything for them or talk to them about in their favor either. And so they came out to defend Daniel fairly quickly about what, all these stories that were coming out against him, that what Wong and Justin Smith were saying, disputing the information and stuff that's out there. I wonder why they would do that.
Did they really come out and dispute? But they came out just to do that, or were they asked? Yeah,
they sent an email to the media. And basically, I can pull it up, but they sent an email saying that they went back and they searched through the surveillance footage and found no evidence of what they were talking about. Let's see.
Like of the car, you mean, driving up and down?
Yeah, you remember how?
Yeah,
they
I
have
remember.
footage at
I
night.
didn't know this.
Yeah. But you remember how in the Brian Koberger case where they had where I was trying to show how how the light amongst the back of the houses was an indication that Brian Koberger didn't park in the back.
100%.
Well, they have cameras that are fairly close. They don't have cameras that are pointing at Daniel's house, but from my understanding is they have cameras that are fairly close to his house. That had he gone over there towards the direction that Wong says he was with his lights on, as Wong indicated in his statement, they probably would have been captured on those cameras, which is why they were like, you can see the glow of light at night and determine if somebody's there versus, because I know a lot of people were questioning, well, why couldn't they see Jack and Lily? And I'm like, well, it's because at night you can see certain things because of the glow of the light from further distance. You also can tell certain things. Like, for instance, in the Brian Koberger case, had Brian Koberger passed in the daytime, there would have been no way I would have been able to tell whether he parked in the back or on the side or anywhere else. It was solely because he parked there at nighttime that I can see the reflection of the headlights amongst the trees and amongst the back houses on the back row there.
Yeah, on the side of the house, you caught it right there.
Mm-hmm. And so my assumption is that there's something similar to that.
Do you have that email?
It's a oh man, we got a new. I thought I sent it to you. It said it wasn't it was an article from the one of these places that, and it's
I'll have to go back and look after.
I think it said RCMP dispute witness. Let me see.
Okay, I'll go back and look.
Oh, that's okay.
Oh, I don't remember that one. I believe you, obviously.
Yeah, I know I sent it to you, and I was like, look, I even said,
yeah, I believe you.
I even said some some inappropriate things. It's about them being liars.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna look at it and be like, oh my god, of course I remember this. I probably like said something in response to it or something. Yeah. It's slipping my mind because I have a fever.
Yeah.
Sure.
No, they basically they disputed it, saying that they went back and they thoroughly looked at the security cameras and found no evidence of a vehicle at that time, being in the area or having any significance in the case. And then I actually have some pictures of some cameras from the area that I had shown the last time I was on here. Now these are a little bit further away, but these are some of the cameras. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I got so much stuff sometimes.
Do they have like freedom of information type things out there?
No, they don't. That's the one thing that I guess a lot of people complain about. But like, this is one camera from down the road. This is the same camera. That's at 9:30 a.m. And so, you can see trees in the background. You can see for a distance and stuff like that. Now, these aren't the cameras that caught. Like, this wouldn't have been the camera to have caught if Daniel had left his place or not. But these are cameras, like something that you can expect to see. There are some out there. They are pointing at the street. I know that there are. Let me pull up the map one more time. So I know that there are cameras, and here's the one that I think is there's cameras here, like in this campground. And Daniel lives like right there around that bend.
So it's in the beginning.
Right. So, I mean, if he was driving this way to pull in, you would have seen the headlights going that direction. I also know that there are supposedly cameras either here. Like, I don't know if it's this house, that house, or.
Do we know if they were all like working and turned in?
If they went through them and they were able to verify that the information isn't.
Yeah, then they must have. I got you.
And then you have some here. I believe somebody told me there was some around here. I think it was actually Sonny that told me that somewhere along the railroad tracks that there are some. I have. She's the one that told me about those. I'm not familiar with those, but I'm gonna take her word for it that there's some there. But if there's some on either end of Daniel's house, or even if it was like up here and it was kind of facing this intersection, you should see his vehicle pass by in the direction that he said it was. And
That's
so,
interesting. Johnny from Canada says that they do have a Freedom of Information Act, probably not as good as the United States, but that's how the media were able to get the docs they did.
well, there you go. There you go.
I wonder if there's anything we could get.
I wonder too.
We'll have to look into that.
Let me see. No. Man, where is this article? You would assume that would be the first thing that pops up, the one that I sent you.
I'm sure I have it, Daniel. I'll go back and look. I mean, I obviously believe you. I don't know if you're pulling it up for the people in chat. I'm sure they believe you too. But.
No, they don't. I'm just kidding.
That's so funny.
Yeah, no, they do. They do.
I know, that was funny.
Let's see. I got a screenshot of it that I sent to myself. So let me pull that up real quick.
You said they don't.
No, I know you guys are great. I kid. I don't know if this is going to have it because I think this is the first one. So there was two articles. So what they did was, this is the first one.
I got that. Yeah.
What they did was they went back to the original article and they edited it and said however, RCM confirms that thorough review of surveillance footage. And see, a lot of people were getting this confused because they were saying, they must not have had footage, that there's no evidence of it one way or another. I was like, that's not what it says. It does not say that there's no evidence one way or the other. It says through a review of surveillance footage, there's no evidence of any vehicle activity at that time. That doesn't mean that, because some people were trying to say that, that must mean that the cameras weren't working. That's not what it says, that the cameras were not working.
No, I don't take it that way.
Yeah, I know, but I trust me. I was
right. People do. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, but a lot of people were coming in saying, no, that means that the cameras weren't working, or they didn't, they didn't capture anything, that they were blacked out. No, what that means is that they had footage of things, and when they reviewed the footage, they couldn't find any evidence.
And they say that they thoroughly reviewed it, so it's not even like they're just saying in passing.
Yeah, and then they came back with the dispute, and it said that they were contacted. The CBC was contacted by a specific officer via email to just basically to tell them that of this information. And so they had put out word that Daniel, that there was two witnesses, they being the media, put out word that there was two witnesses who had seen and heard vehicles driving and going, and that they implicated Daniel the night before the kids went missing. Immediately afterwards, the RCMP sends out an email. Why would they do that? Why would they do that, period?
I guess to stop any conspiracy theories that might arise from it, because it might not be true. But it says at that time, did they look at any time?
Well, they were talking about specifically the times that
what if they got it off by what if they were off by an hour or two? I would hope that they looked at
I'm sure
I hope.
I would too. Now, is it, when Wong and Smith report this are like a week and 2 weeks later, is it possible that they just got the wrong day, that they did see something and it just happened to be the wrong day and they got it confused? I think that's a possibility.
Yeah.
Is it a possibility that they're lying because of whatever reason? That's a possibility too. Ron Logan was lying about his alibi in the Delphi case, and it wasn't because he took the lives of the little kids. It was because he was violating his parole by drinking. And so You know,
Right, but wouldn't you think that like with like
people lie for different
evidence,
reasons.
but when you think of evidence like in the garage and stuff that they wouldn't want to say, so like I feel like it's probably more what you were saying at first, that it probably happened just on a different day, because I would think that you wouldn't want to insert yourself in something like this, especially if you have something that could incriminate you in any crime, whether it's this one or that you stole somebody's heater or something.
Right. I mean, it could be a lot of reasons. I found it weird and suspicious that he would, that Wong, you know, would implicate himself in it. You know, I still think it's weird, you know, what he's doing or why he's doing it. I have no idea.
I think he probably thinks he's trying to help. And like you said, it probably, I never even thought of that. It probably definitely happened just on a different night. I mean, unless it's either that or you're all out, like you're lying on purpose. Like to me, there's really no middle ground for that.
Well, the one thing that's weird about it is supposedly he spoke to the media, and I haven't been able to find this. So I don't know. I just keep getting told this. There was a neighbor that spoke to the media saying that they had seen cars all day the day before, which was an impossibility. I think Justin Smith even said that a couple times, because Daniel and Malaya are on video in Toro, a city down a ways, on video during the time that supposedly all these people are at their house. And so they're on video somewhere else. But, you know, supposedly there was an interview with one of these places. They didn't want to give their name. They wanted to remain anonymous, and said that they heard a couple vehicles throughout the night. And then he tells law enforcement that he saw a vehicle with the lights driving around. And then he tells Justin Wong that that what he saw was Daniel. And it just sounds like you have three different scenarios with three very different stories. And to me, it almost sounded like when he was telling Justin Smith this, that, you know, this was before Justin went to go speak to law enforcement. I questioned if he was trying to convince Justin that the vehicle that he thought he heard, or maybe had heard, or I don't know what, was Daniel's. I wonder why he was trying to convince him in that, you know, why it would have been. But that's kind of the feeling I got behind what I was reading.
That would be, though, assuming that he was trying to convince them. Could it have also been like, I mean, you and I will talk every now and then. Like if I was like, oh my gosh, Daniel, like I definitely think it was, you know, Steelers fan in that car. I'm just joking. I'm just giving him an example. But I definitely think that was Sirius Black that I saw. Like, could it have been something like that? And again, Sirius, I'm just like using an example.
Right, but a lot of people point at Daniel for being inconsistent and the things that he's saying. This guy's being very inconsistent. I mean, that's just the way I see it. He's told three different stories to three different people.
Are they all different though?
Yeah, because one place he says that he saw a car. Another one says it was Daniel. He's telling the other guy it was Daniel. And so, yeah, it seems pretty different to me in all three of them. Why wouldn't he tell law enforcement that the vehicle that he saw was Daniel's?
Because I would think that just in case, like maybe he's like, oh, like I definitely think it was so-and-so, but maybe he didn't know for sure. I'm just trying to give the guy the benefit of the doubt. I mean, but you're right. Could there be inconsistencies? Absolutely. But could it have also been like elaboration on the story? So like he says the first part and then to the next person adds that next part, and then to the friend adds, oh, I think it was so-and-so.
Yeah. I mean, that usually happens when the story goes from one person to the next to the next.
That's true.
Or when somebody's not being truthful.
That's true.
So, I mean, that's what usually happens in those scenarios. To me, it just seems kind of weird, you know. But I don't know why. I don't think he had anything to. So I would think that if law enforcement thought he had something to do with the kids, that Daniel and Janie and Malaya would have been asked about him, and they weren't. So I don't think that, you know, at this point, I think it's unlikely.
Reward money? What do you think it could be?
Well, the reward money didn't happen until June, and he was talking supposedly to the Global Mail or whatever it was, CBC and law enforcement in May. And so it was before the reward came out. Some people in the area told me that and I think this is a possibility too, that, you know, they don't like cops being in the area and they want them to get out of there. And if they arrest Daniel fast enough, that they're not in their backyard anymore for whatever reason.
Because they have a garage full of items.
It could be that, could be a lot of things. I have no idea, but I think that's also a possibility. I couldn't rule that out. And I mean, there's also the fact that maybe they assume that Daniel did do something, right? And they're trying to, what was that guy that tried to frame OJ or whatever? Try to pull one of those where they're like, all right, well, it's obvious he did it, so we're going to go and say these things so they have a slam dunk case. And in efforts, man, if Daniel did do anything, they could really be a hindrance to it, to be honest with you.
I feel like with this case, it's just the more we find out, the like way more questions we have as opposed to answers. And I feel like all of the answers, it's like one extreme or the other. It doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of middle ground here. It's like either the person is completely lying or they completely like misinterpreted something. Like, I just feel like there's like no medium at all for any of the answers of any of the questions. Like, I think that's why this case is so like, you know, and people, they want to know, like, how do two kids just vanish? So it's like, you want to try to make sense of it. But I feel like the more stuff that comes out, the more questions there are. I don't know.
I mean, I think that I think there is a medium there. Like the fact that I think that the kids wandered off. I mean, I think
that's the one. Then to me,
pretty much the medium for me, because I don't think that Malaya did anything. I don't think that Daniel.
No, I don't think Malaya did anything either. That's not even an option for me. For me, it's either on the one end we have like neglect where the kids like they walk off, whatever. On the other end, it's something very nefarious. That's what I meant by both ends. I just meant that, like, I feel like, but that's of the questions, that one is probably, you know, the biggest one. But I'm talking about all these things in between, like the blanket. It was either it was planted, or it could have been, you know, or it was completely had nothing. Like it was nothing. The boots.
I don't believe so. I think that the blanket could have been thrown there by the kids.
Well, that's what I mean. But I feel like it's like one extreme or the other, which. I don't
think that's an extreme. I mean, if you're saying the extreme is it was planted or it was, what's the other extreme to that?
So it was planted or it was left by the kids. What about that stuff in between? Like, I don't know. And again, I know people are going to be like, there wasn't animal activity, but like, what if it's like a bear or something ripped it out of the trap? I'm just trying to give you I just feel like there's just so many questions. I feel like there's just so many questions still.
No, I don't disagree with you about that. You know, to me, I think that a lot of those questions start to get answered when you start to look at the investigation itself. And I'm talking about in certain directions. Now, there's going to be some things that are going to be completely left open that you can't deduce or not deduce. One of them being, in my opinion, is them wandering off in the woods. Another one being that you can't deduce that if they wandered into the front yard, that they didn't come across the wrong person driving by at the right time. You know, I don't think you can, you know, that's not an impossibility. I think it's improbable. I think it's less. No, let me rephrase this. I think it's less likely than that happened than they walked off, that they wandered into the woods. I think it's more likely that they wandered off. Where are your happy mediums that you want to think of outside of maybe an animal put the blanket in the tree?
Well, I would want to know, like, so I know they found the blanket that day, and I know, did they find the other part of the blanket in the garbage that day, or was it days later?
It was that day. From what I understand is when they questioned Malaya and Daniel.
See, so that's odd to me. Like, why is the blanket in the trash can, but also in the woods?
Well, it was separated in two places, and Daniel told me that the blanket was one that could have been easily torn into pieces. It wouldn't have taken very much to tear it. And that it was used initially to be for the under the door. And so if you're constantly like kicking that up against the door, or if you open the door and forget that it's there and you drag it across. I used to have a door that we had to do this, where I had to put like a blanket and stuff. And yeah, it gets weathered, it gets torn.
But you didn't put your daughter's pink blanket, right? I don't there's just always something with that too with me. Like, I feel like a kid is going to walk by and grab their pink blanket. Like
Right.
if I was trying to use it for the air, I don't know. That whole thing doesn't sit with me right.
But even if she did and she tore a piece off of it, because it was only like the blanket was 1 foot by like about 3 feet long. It was like a strip of the blanket. And
that's almost as tall as me.
and the blanket was found in the tree up a little bit. Now I think it's very much plausible because it's not that far away from where the boot prints were. You know, it's kind of
on the trail, right?
Yeah, it's kind of walking in the same direction. And so to me, those two things right there are what tell me that the kids are out in the woods. And, you know, I know a lot of people think that I believe Daniel. You guys are just, what is the word I'm looking for? Super close-minded and unwilling to see what's right, and unwilling to hear what I'm trying to say too. Me and Daniel disagree on a lot of things. I don't agree with hardly anything that Daniel says. This reminds me a lot of the folks that used to think that I used to agree with WSU mom Kim just because I had her on the show. And I was like, just because I have somebody on the show doesn't mean I agree with what they say.
Well, I will say though, since the last time we've been on, I have seen a little bit. Like I feel like you've like seen, which is a good thing, right? Because that means that whatever it is that you've read or seen or whatever, that you have an open mind. So that's what that says to me. Whereas like some of the new things that came out, you could have been like confirmation bias. You could have been like, no, like if you were 100% just backing Daniel, you wouldn't have said half of the things that you said tonight.
Right. And that, and like the other thing too is I don't back Daniel. I listen to what the RCMP and the evidence is. Mm-hmm. Like so many people could not understand that in the Brian Koberger case. They're like, oh my God, you're just a guilter, I think is what they called me. And all this other stuff. And I'm like, I look at the evidence. I mean, what do you want me to do? I was like, I can go listen to what somebody else says and be persuaded by their words, or I can look at the evidence and come up with my own opinion. And that's what I prefer to do. But me and Daniel do not agree with hardly anything. And like I've said a million times, like Daniel doesn't like he don't like Malaya. I'm not attacking her. To me, I don't think that just because at the end of the day, I think what ends up happening is I'm following the evidence. It just so happens that what I'm following coincides with Daniel not doing something nefarious to the kids. And
that's fair.
And the same thing can go for Malaya. And I've never spoken to Malaya personally. I've spoken to people who know her, and through them, I guess, by saying, hey, you know, I told this one person to tell her, hey, I know today's probably really, really hard for you. You know, we're thinking about you and praying for you. And, you know, we hope that, you know, there's some answers soon. You know, that was my message to her today. And so, you know, same thing with Janie and Daniel. I understand that this day is probably very hard, but just because I talk to Janie and I talk to Daniel doesn't mean I agree with everything that they say. I think they get frustrated with me because they'll tell, like with 80% of what they tell me, I come back with, well, if that was the case, then this, and this, and this. And I kind of shoot down a lot of the things that they're saying. But I don't attack them. And that's why she was like, you know, she was telling me today, she's like, you're a stand-up guy. You don't attack us, even if you don't agree with what we're saying. Because we don't agree on a majority of what she said, what they say. I just follow what the evidence says. It just so happens that the biggest part of what the evidence is saying, or what the RCMP are saying, is that there's no evidence of a criminal offense here. And so
I see where you're saying that. I totally agree. I think my hold up for me is like with Koberger and stuff, psychologically and like detective work, whatever, like investigative work. I feel like we were like both of our things lined up exactly. Here, there's still something psychological that I just can't wrap my head around yet. And it's not that I can't wrap my head around it. Let me rephrase that. It's not as congruent for me as it is, or like as integrated for me as it was with BK. And that could just be because we don't know the outcome yet. We don't know what happened to the kids. So there's so many open questions. So that could very much be it, or it could be that I'm picking up on like neglect and just him being a bad boyfriend to people in general. I don't know. So like that doesn't mean that he's a bad guy or that he killed anybody either. Wait, there was one other thing I just thought of that I forgot to ask you about that last interview he did. At the one part, he says, that doesn't mean that we killed any of the kids. And then he says, I mean the kids. So was that not weird?
I guess, I mean, it can be. Daniel has a way of talking. And I've talked to him a lot, and he talks a lot. And him saying that, I think it's because of the accusations that he's seeing. I think that's what he gets. He gets a lot of people saying those type of things against him. And I think he's frustrated. And he's gotten to the point where, he understands the undertones of the question from the interviewer, and is saying, I know what you guys are thinking. You're thinking that we killed the kids, and we never killed any of the kids. And I think that there's also I think that when it comes to some of his vocabulary, I don't know if it's as extensive as maybe perhaps as many other people's vocabulary could be. I'm not saying that, he's
less than smart. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying he's not smart. I'm saying that there's a difference between being smart and educated. I don't know how educated. I have no idea what his background is. I don't know if he ever, I don't know what his reading level is. Cause like some of the things that he'll say, like, oh, they interrogated me and stuff. And it was more of a recorded witness statement. At first I kind of was leaning towards it. Yeah, it sounds like an interrogation. But the more I think about it, it does kind of sound like a statement that you would record.
What, the last one that he just did?
Yeah, the one that he did where they were asking about him driving up and down the street and some other questions. I think they were trying to compare and contrast with what he said before. I would have done
more of an interrogation.
An interrogation, there would have been a little bit more accusation. They were just.
I don't know how that works. That's why I'm asking.
Right. I mean, if they're being accusatory now, Canada and the United States, I don't know. I don't know if Miranda warnings or anything like that.
That's a good question.
That you might have to be read or anything like that. But I don't think they did any of those type of things. And so the second thing is it's not a criminal investigation. So it's probably not an interrogation. And I would not classify it as an interrogation if I was law enforcement right now. Because if you did, now just kind of using the laws in the United States, if you did that and you didn't Mirandize him and you didn't do any of those things and you kind of tricked him into it, you can get in trouble for that.
That is so true. And I want to say in Daniel's defense, before I forget, that right after this, he said about the media, and he said, everything that I say right now is going to get scrutinized later on when like in YouTube and stuff. So like in his defense, he says that right after. So when you said that, that's why I started laughing to myself, because I'm like, he literally says that next.
Yeah. And he knows that too. But every word he says, like, cause he was telling me, yeah, it was an interrogation. I got interrogated. And it was kind of like even the term abuse, like cause he said, yeah, they said that I abused the kids. And I'm like, oh, what does that mean? He's like, well, abuse means like, not being there.
It is though, technically.
It is, but I mean, you can clarify that a little bit better before you just say.
Yeah, I would want clarity on that too. If they asked me that question, I would be like, do you mean neglect? Do you mean like physical?
Right.
I agree with that.
And I think also that it was more of because he kind of, because like some of the things he says are confusing. Like you have to ask him a couple of times to get it clarified. Like he told me something to the effect that Malaya and Malaya's family think that he planted the blanket. And I was like, why do you think that? And oh gosh, I can't. I think it had to do with the questioning from RCMP, and he was kind of putting two and two together. And so I just went out and asked Malaya's, side of the family, the people that I know. and her friends. I was like, hey, do y'all think this? And they said no. And so to me, some of the things I wonder, and I don't know necessarily that's one of them, but like the kids being abused, and I'll put that in quotation marks. RCMP knew that Daniel wasn't seeing his kids. They knew that his baby mom was keeping him away from him. Now, I dead set would have gone and talked to those kids to see what was up. I also would have told Daniel, regardless of what they told me, I would have told Daniel that they said that he was abusive, just to get his reaction and to figure out what it is that his response is going to be. Is he going to slip up? Is he going to say something? Is he going to get mad? Is he going to show his true colors when he gets mad? Like, there's a lot of things that you would do. So I know that when that text message came out and people started looking at that and started saying it, those type of things, my first question was like, when was this? When did this happen? Because I think that's important. If it happened, early on in the investigation, earlier on, then there's a good possibility that this is while they were still highly suspecting him of being involved. And then the second thing is all of this information that the RCMP has dropped out about the investigation against Daniel Martel. I want to ask you this, Dr. Bona. What case have you ever seen where law enforcement has dropped off this amount of information about their suspect before they arrested him?
I don't know. That's a question for you, Daniel.
I've never seen that happen before.
That's why I'm asking. I'm like, I can't think of it.
So to me, I don't think that he's their suspect at this point, but I found it interesting that they brought him in to question him about.
I have a question. Are they allowed to like lie to suspect or not suspect, like just to people? Like, how in the United States we can say like Daniel, tell me the truth. Jamie already ratted you out. Da da da. If that's not true, are they allowed to do that in Canada? Do we know?
I don't know if they're allowed to do that in Canada or not. They're allowed to do that in the United States. And I think that
wouldn't that depend then on if they could say that the kid said that you abuse them?
I'm pretty sure they can do that. I don't think
I'm wondering.
I don't think you can be like that's a misconception. Like even in the United States, where when I was growing up, they're like, oh man, if that guy's an undercover and you ask him, are you a cop? They have to say yes. That's not true.
Mm-mm.
That used to be a misconception.
Not here.
A lot of people. Well, yeah. And
I'm agreeing with you.
But the same thing goes out there. Like putting it in writing is one thing, but saying it just to your suspect is another. Saying it to the public is a third thing too. So like going to your suspect and saying, we believe you, it really means nothing. Really means nothing. If you suspect somebody and they say, we believe you, that doesn't mean anything. That's just trying to get, that suspect to relax, whatever. Putting it down in writing, like, hey, we don't suspect anything. That's a different story because if you end up arresting that guy, or even if you go to the media, it's kind of like what Brian Koberger was going to try to use in his favor with the Bolo on the Elantra 2011 or 13. You put out information like that, you arrest him, man, you're going to have a hell of a hard time not having, finding a jury to convict him and not have reasonable doubt based on the information you put out against him, saying there's no evidence, that he passed the lie detector test, he did this, he cooperated, all these things, and we found nothing here. We put it in documents, we said it out loud. Now, I guess they can come out and say, oh, we were just flat out lying to the public and to everybody. I just don't see the advantage to doing that. I see the advantage of telling your suspect, we think you're clear. I don't see the advantage of telling the public that we think that this specific person is clear when they're not.
But can they like genuinely think that somebody's clear and then find new evidence that suspects that they're not, or that, where they could change their, like, could that also be true where like you think, and I'm not saying it is in this case, I'm just saying like, does that also happen where like, I don't think it's somebody but then with new evidence, I might, rethink it.
Right. So the only evidence that would have to come up for that to have happened, like, you probably have to get a confession or a body. and that the body would have to point in a direction, because out of those two things right now, what more evidence could they get? They already got his locations. They got his financial records. They got his lie detector test. They've already got his phone downloaded. So they got his messages and everything else in between there.
And there's no evidence of foul play.
Right. Nothing. No evidence of a criminal offense, period. And so what else could be they've already searched the house. They used cadaver dogs. What else could be done at this point that could produce more evidence outside of finding a body or a confession?
No, you're right. That is it.
So at this point, them saying that they feel that he was not involved or there's no evidence of anything with everything that they've done, it's I find it unlikely that there's something there nefarious. Now, could there have been an accident of some sort? And I still find it hard, that they couldn't find, that Malaya and him both passed lie detector tests and things like that. I find it difficult that if that did happen, Malaya going through a custody battle with Meadow against him, that she wouldn't come out and say there was an accident and he did something, or he accidentally did this, or whatever the case may be, to favor her in getting the kid.
But what if you both felt culpable and you didn't say anything because you were afraid that it would, like by not saying anything, neither one of you implied the other. By one person saying something, the other one might be able to say. I'm just like thinking.
But Daniel is kind of pointing.
True. Touche.
You get what I'm saying?
You're
and that's
100% right.
And that's one of the things that also makes me think that, like, this is the scenario that you want if these are your suspects. What you want is you want your two suspects to not talk to each other. They did that for you. You want them to turn on each other. They did that for you. You want them to talk to you and turn over their phone, turn over their financial records. They did that. And then at the end, you want them to take a lie detector test to put the cherry on top. I mean...
But they didn't close the investigation.
There isn't a criminal investigation. It's a missing persons investigation. They haven't even opened one yet.
That's true.
And so, that's kind of where I sit on. I think that they think that it's more than likely that they wandered off. I think that if they had any inclination that there was an abduction, that there was a kidnapping or a handoff or any of those things, I highly doubt they'd give up any information in their investigation at this point.
I agree with that.
And so, those are the things that kind of point me into saying, all right, as much as Daniel says all these things that are suspicious and red flags, I have all this right here, and I can't turn away from all that. And that's kind of where I sit. I know a lot of people don't like it, and a lot of people want me to turn on Daniel or Malaya or any of those things, but those are the things that I cannot look past. I have to take those into consideration. And it's kind of like Sudoku, like I said, him being this abusive guy and this, that, and a third, it looks good on one line, but how does it match up with all the evidence going the other directions? And it just doesn't sit there, but doesn't mean it's not there. Just can't find it right now. Lori comes in. Thank you, Lori. Happy birthday, Jack. Thank you, DT, for all that we do. I appreciate that, Lori. Thank you so much. Yes. You're amazing. I got a couple of super chats. I think there's some on your side. It says, could they have been dropped there? Could they have been dropped where? What do you think about the question? Could they have been dropped there?
I think Sarah might mean so drop there. We were only talking about the boot prints and the blanket. So I'm not, Sarah, if you're still in here, tell me what you were referring to specifically.
Oh man, that was like an hour ago. We've been talking for a minute.
Been talking for like 2 hours or something.
Yeah. And anything else that you have, Dr. Vona, that you want to kind of go through or want to ask about?
I think I asked you most of the questions that I had for now, but I'm sure I'm going to have more questions as I see more things. But I have been doing, someone said love Sudoku. I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, I can't wait to play it when we hang up.
Do you know what game I play? Minesweeper. Have you ever played Minesweeper?
No, but I will. Is it a good one?
I like it. It makes you think. They're
the games I like. Strategy.
It's so you have a square of 9. and you click on one of the, we have a lot of squares, right? But you click on a button, and sometimes it's like 100 different squares, and there's bombs in the squares. And you click a button, and that button's going to give you a number, and it's going to tell you how many bombs are within the 9 square radius. And so let's just say it says 3, and you click the one next to it, and it says 1. Well, you have some overlap, so then you can kind of determine that
like
there's
Battleship.
there's one here and potentially some here, but it's over a huge board.
That's like Battleship. You'll have to send me a link. I'm down.
It's so much fun, but it's a lot of math and a lot of thinking right away.
I'm good at math. It's my favorite.
Me too. And so, all in all, happy birthday, Jack. I have a couple of videos. I got a couple of videos that I'm going to play here at the end of the show. Shout out to Bree and the girls for putting these videos together. Thank you so much. Overall, the news today was that Daniel, possibly Malaya, I have no idea. I've not gotten in touch with Malaya's side. We're called in to RCMP. I know that Daniel, they were asking him questions about the blanket. He answered those questions, and this was sometime last week, and there's no movement yet. So my opinion tells me, or my gut feeling says, that they were trying to confirm and contrast what he said before to rule him out as being the person that may have put that blanket there. And if they rule him out, then I think that there's I think they're going to focus more on the search. I know there's some more searches coming out. But
what happens if they can't rule him out?
Well, I mean, if they come back and they find something that is, if I was in law enforcement, if I was the investigator, and I come back and Daniel says something that didn't jive with what he said before, I'd have to bring him back in a third time.
Okay. You
bring him in a third time, and then you say, well, this would probably be like the 5th or 6th time. But another time, because he's come in more than one other time. He's told me that he did one interview in the back of the unit, I think, there, and then he did like 2 or 3 other ones at the station, and so then there's this one. So this is like 4 or 5 interviews.
And he talks so much to the media, so exactly. All you have to do is like listen in there too.
Right, and so I would if I went back and I found something that maybe didn't jive. I mean, he's so open for lie detector tests. I'd ask him for another one. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe change the questions around. Ask him if there was an accident. Ask him if there was some other things that happened.
Yeah, because it seems like they asked very specific questions.
Referencing the death of Jack and Lilly, yeah. And if he's so open, bring him back in, and I would, based on the information, I strongly suspect that had he done something nefarious, they would have found the evidence for it based on his cooperation. And so I'm confident that if they did do this, that he would probably pass again, and he would probably, they're probably not going to find anything. Now, I think at this point, I would be more surprised. Like if they found something, I'd be like, wow. Now, I wouldn't discredit it. I always say that, the stance depends on the circumstance. The circumstance changes, so does the stance. And so if there's some circumstances that come out, I'd be a little bit surprised at this point. But I would take it for what it's worth and look into it. What about you?
I totally second that. I second that. I do. I see all of the things that you're saying. Like, I'm starting to see more. I still have questions, but again, I think it might just come back to the way that Daniel does all the different interviews, and I'm looking at it psychologically. So, and again, I'm picking up on different things, but so I think it's that same thing. But chances are the kids probably, most likely, in my opinion, probably, unfortunately got lost. But I'm still open to any. I have so many questions for Daniel. I'm gonna have to talk to him Monday and ask him myself.
You know what? I'll see if I can arrange that. I can see if I can ask Daniel if he'll join the show with you on the panel.
Well, you'd have to give me a little bit of time to prepare for that one, because I'd have to really think about the questions I'd want to ask. I might only get one shot at that.
I do have one last question for you. What if what about folks, and let's just take Daniel out of it, but how would folks who are extremely hard-headed react in a scenario like this? Well, how would you expect somebody who's stubborn, about everything, absolutely everything?
So I would say, just like I did with the BK case, is that now a reflection of that person as far as what is it about that has that person stubborn or hell-bent on a certain thing? So like, are they identifying with something in the story themselves?
No, what I mean is like in general, like if you had a person who had to be, I guess like Brian Cooper had to be right about everything, super stubborn.
To me, that says more about them.
But not involved in it. Like if they got caught up, if you had somebody who got caught up in a scenario where something didn't look so good, kind of like Daniel, but is just one of these stubborn persons, how would they react in a scenario like how would a stubborn person react to being in a situation where now people are questioning them and they feel they know all the answers and they're not involved?
So it depends on who we're talking about. Are we talking about like a parent figure, or are we talking about?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, like if you have a guy who's just stubborn,
like Daniel.
Like Daniel, just absolutely. Because when I talk to Daniel, I'll be honest with you guys, that guy is really stubborn. Like, and I was trying to explain to him like on how the search could have missed some stuff and how, you know, there's all these searches that are going on. And he's like, no, Daniel, I know that. I'm like, all right. And it's not just that. It's like some of the other things that's not related to the case where he's like, Daniel, this is what, and I'm like,
do we know if he has like ADHD or autism or anything, Daniel?
He supposedly does.
So then if he does, right, you have to take that into consideration too.
Right. Yeah. He said that he was getting, I guess he's gotten tested for ADHD.
Okay, tested and diagnosed are two different things though, but I wonder, so this is what I would say about that. If
I don't want to talk about his medical
stuff. Yeah, that's why I'm saying that maybe that's something we could ask him if I ever talk to him. But okay, so this is the deal. If we're talking about Daniel specifically, that actually has completely would help me decipher for him specifically how I would answer that. If we're just talking about the general public, like with the BK case, how there were so many people that were just stuck on the fact that he was not guilty, and even him saying that he was guilty still isn't enough for them to believe that he's guilty. In those types of cases, to me, that's more about the person. So maybe they identify as somebody who's been accused of something before but hasn't done it, or maybe they feel like they've been the underdog. So it's more about them. With Daniel specifically, I would need to know medically what is happening so that I can better, maybe that's it. Maybe that's the incongruence that I'm picking up on. I would be interested to ask him if he's ever been diagnosed with anything, and not like in a disrespectful way, because if so, and if he truly has a diagnosis, that would help his position in my head, at least.
I was talking to Janie not too long ago, and she was complaining about him, saying this boy don't finish anything he starts. He started this, started doing that, then does about halfway, and then goes to something different. And I was like, yeah, you know, and I've talked to him. My daughter is ADHD, and
so am I.
My daughter's not as, she's super stubborn. Oh my God, she's right about everything. But and this is my oldest.
No, Daniel just jumped in and said ADHD.
There you go, ADHD. So if he does have this, and I kind of see some of the similarities between Daniel and like my daughter with. Like even when I'm asking him questions and stuff, he'll be talking about one thing and then like in the middle start talking about something different and then finish it off with a third thing.
If he really if he does ADHD, like he's saying, and I have ADHD, one of the things that goes with ADHD is we don't like rejection. And it's not even that. I don't care if people don't like me. Like, I don't care about that. It's more like when somebody says something that we know isn't real or that doesn't, best describe what it is we're thinking, we can get hyper focused on that. If he has ADHD, that would explain a lot of the stuff that I see in the interviews that I'm like, Daniel, I'm ADHD too, so I get that. And again, it's not about, we don't care if you like us. It's not that. It's more like if we were having a conversation and you like reject me in that moment, I would be hyper focused. Like, what did I like? If I really cared or if I really thought that you were being genuine. So could it be that the media saying things about him just has him hyper focused on clearing his own name? Possibly.
I wouldn't.
Rejection sensitivity. That's exactly what.
Right. I would say that sounds fair. Like I mean, let me rephrase this. I would say that in my experience with Daniel and talking with him, I would think that that's appropriate, an appropriate possibility.
That would make sense for that.
Yeah. And
that's my thing. I'm having a hard time coming up with what makes sense. That would actually answer some of the questions that I can't quite wrap my head around. Like, if that's the case, I can wrap my head around some of the things.
Yeah.
Oh, Gianna, I'm alive. I love you. Sorry. My daughter just came in. Hi.
My wife has ADHD, and she's all over the place sometimes. Like
that's me. I'm just medicated on the days I work.
No, my wife ain't, and she's like.
I have to be, or I wouldn't be able to be a professor. It's only the days that I work, and then the days that I don't work, I don't take my medicine. But like you were saying earlier, I'll do like 80, like I'll do a million things 80% of the way, but none of them 100%. But then on Monday, when I go back to work, all the stuff gets completed. So that's good.
See, I'm the diff. I have like ADD. I don't have the hyper aspect of it. Like, to me, I start one thing, then I start thinking about the other thing, and then I start thinking about all the other stuff I got to do, and then I get overwhelmed, and then I don't do anything.
It sounds just like it. There you go. And it is genetic too. So if your daughter has it.
Yeah. I don't have the hyper stuff. I've never been the hyperest person. I've been reluctant to do those type of things. Like I used to work out a lot, especially before my injuries and stuff, like when I was younger. But even then, it was more of a chore. I never enjoyed it, Maybe afterwards, when
I'm like hyperactive to the 10th degree.
Oh no, not me. Like my wife gets me tired, like watching her run back and forth. I'm like, yo,
that's me with everybody else. They're like, oh my God, sit down.
It's like this. Let's take a breather. Let's relax. Dr. Vaughn,
I practice like my behavioral techniques when I'm live with you, because being ADHD at this time at night, I'm just being honest, my medicine stops working at a certain, you can't be medicated all the time, right? So like I have to actively like bite the side of my cheek to make sure I don't talk, or like my legs shaking down here, but it's not because I'm bored or anything. It's just because I have like energy that just needs to get out at all times, which is why I'm always talking with my hands, or I don't shut up. I literally have been talking since 7:30 this morning, and I had no break today. Like my break, I still had to talk. So it's just, but if I didn't have ADHD, I don't know if I'd be able to do it.
Yeah.
So I use it to my advantage. You use your ADD to your advantage. You get shit done.
There you go. I just see, I have the ADD, but I also have like I get obsessive, I guess. Like when it comes to like a case, like I just get.
Well, that's part of it, right? You're hyper focused. That's part of it, the AD part, like the attention deficit part. You can be hyper focused at the same time.
And then the thing that sucks about it is like if I have to focus on something else, I cannot focus on anything else other than what I have been primarily focused on. It is horrific. I have no idea. Like it's been times where, and I think Steelers fans is asleep now, but she'll be talking to me and I'm like, had something in my head and I'm like, and then I kick in about halfway through what she was saying and I'm like, oh snap, what was she saying?
That happens to me all the time. Well, just so people know, I saw something with medication. I'm on a very, very low dose, and it's just why I'm working so that I could stay focused.
There you go.
On my students. But what do I have coming up? Good question. My ADHD, I really have no idea. So to be honest, right now, I'm like so busy with work, but just to let everybody know, I'm doing my schedule for next semester and I'm setting it up to where I'm working just as hard, but more from here, like home. So that cuts out a lot of my driving time, which means I could do more on YouTube. So that's the good news. The bad news is I have no idea when I'm going to go live next. How about for you?
I'll be live tomorrow night, probably. Perfect. I have no idea what I'm going to be talking about. I might talk about the Melody Buzzard case. I'm not sure. I was kind of looking into that one because it was kind of I was like, all right, this is a little bit of a mystery. There's a little girl that's missing. They found some pictures of her recently with a wig on. It's kind of strange, but this is before she went with her mom on a trip to Nebraska. And apparently there's some mental health issues with the mom, apparently. And so,
I'm gonna have to look into that.
Yeah, I might look into that one. I know that some people are talking about the Charlie Kirk case. It seems like he's taking a couple of pages out of Brian Koberger's playbook. You know, basically he's going to be allowed to wear a suit and tie, you know, and those type of things during his court appearances before trial, which I'm not too much against, to be honest with you. You know, if you are innocent until proven guilty, then, you know, it should be the facts and the evidence that find you guilty, not what you look like.
That is true.
And so I'm not against it.
No, me either.
And but you know, I think the evidence and the facts will end up putting him right back into that outfit right afterwards. But yeah, that'll probably be tomorrow sometime. I'll be talking about, you know, the case. I'm actually trying to get a hold of one of the search and rescue persons.
Yeah.
I want to get an interview with them about the search and rescue.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, my goal is to focus more now on the possibilities and the probabilities of what occurred in this case. And so, like, some of these conspiracy stuff that comes out, it's probably not going to take too much of my attention, but the focusing in on the possibilities where these kids could be. You know, I was asked today, you know, if I could point out a few spots where some of these searchers might go through, and I'm going to actually get in contact with. So I know a guy who was in the search for Jason Laundrie out in Texas. He was part of their search and rescue that was actively searching there. And also I know Nina Glass, who's part of the San Antonio search and rescue. And I'm going to see if maybe they can kind of give you know, those search crews out there an idea of where to search. I mean, they don't know the
great
area.
Idea.
Yeah, they don't know the area or anything like that. But if they can say, all right, this direction might be your best bet, you know, who knows?
Yeah, that's really smart. And I did just forget something. Tomorrow's Thursday. So Thursday nights I go live late at night and we talk. We do the Mackenzie Shirella thing where my whole chat, like, they have a good old time in chat while I read text messages. So if anybody wants to join us for that, that is tomorrow night. I forgot. Like, I usually go like after you're done. So it's usually later, you guys.
Good deal. Good deal. Well, I'll be checking it out. I've caught a few of your lives. I've been in there a handful of times when you're talking about your case. I'll be there. Why not
Thank
walk?
you. I'll be at yours.
Sounds good. Why not walk? It is in San Marcos. Good deal. Just up the road from me. I'm in San Antonio. San Antonio, Texas. Well, what I'm going to do, guys, I want to say thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I'm going to play a couple of videos to close out the show. These are for Jack, as it is his birthday.
Yes, happy birthday.
Yes, 100%. This is from Bree and the girls. You guys have a great night. We'll see you guys later. Peace out, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Jack and Lilly Sullivan. Missing since May 2nd, 2025, from Lansdowne Station, Nova Scotia. Two stars that rose before the dawn, whose laughter still the breeze rests on. Two tiny footprints in the dew, forever soft, forever true. The sun still calls your names each day, the wind still hums where you would play. In every ripple, leaf, and song, your spirits dance, still bright, still strong. Though arms may ache and eyes still weep, love's promise is a vow we keep. For love can never fade or flee, you live in hearts, in memory. Lilly, with courage wild and free, Jack, gentle as the sea, together bound, beyond the sky, two best friends lost and we don't know why. So we will walk, and speak your names, through joy and sorrow's tender flames. And every step, and every tear, will whisper softly, you are here. Today the candles wait unlit, their tiny flames still dreaming, for the boy whose laughter once set every corner gleaming. 6 months have stretched like endless miles, yet still, your name is spoken, in whispers, prayers, and midnight cries, in hearts that won't be broken. Nova Scotia hums your song, each wave along the shore, a promise that the world will keep to search, to hope, once more. For you, sweet Jack, the skies are blue, the stars still spell your name, they shine for you and sister too, in love that burns the same. The candles wait, the cake is set, the day still marks your start, and though you're out of reach for now, you live in every heart. No ocean's wide enough to hide, no night can dim your light, for Jack and Lilly, side by side, we'll carry you through night. Until you're home, we'll speak your names, each whisper soft and true. Happy birthday, dearest Jack, the world still waits for you.
As the candles flicker in the night, we come together not in celebration, but in love, in remembrance, and in hope for their safe return. Tonight, we gather with candles in hand and lights,